Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all the news from Star Citizen over the past week. I am your host Mac, so let's get on with it. This week we hear more in regards to future plans for ship combat. Tessa Bannister is making a comeback, plus we get to see the progress on the hangars. Be sure to enter the Supermac and Dragons Gaming giveaway where you can win yourself a Constellation Taurus standalone ship. Follow the top link in the description below to learn more. So starting off with around the verse. They say that they are working on hangar elements and implementing them into the truck stop. They will use this for more locations as well. It's currently in the white boxing stage. They're getting the measurements first. This is going to be used for space stations and planets too. So we got to see the door opening. They do look very, very big. Obviously you can see the characters, the people down there for scale. But these hangars will range from small to giant hangars. They also spoke about some weapons. They've been working on the Gemini R97 shotgun, which we know about. This fires clean ballistic rounds. You can choose between a tight or a loose spread, which is kind of a nice feature for it. Currently, we only have the Devastator Plasma Blast shotgun, so they're just filling out the choices by adding some new weapons. In terms of the Mobiglass, they are working on the Vehicle Manager and Personal Manager apps, doing some bug fixing and improving the features. They're focusing currently on the Vehicle app, which they will then move on to the personal app and apply what they've done for the vehicle one. We also, during this time, got to see some helmets there. I don't know if these are helmets we're going to see in the game. I would think so, but we didn't hear any more information about them. Now, in terms of the character customizer, we saw the first tier as to what we're going to be able to use. You'll be able to change your head, your skin tone, your eye colour, your hair and style and colour. It looks like you can only choose between 9 heads. I don't think my head is in there. I don't think the ones that they scanned at CitizenCon is on there, so that will probably come tier 2, tier 3. They're also trying to figure out when and how often we can customize our characters. The changes are semi-permanent through the play sessions, not final, so you can still make whoever you want to make and then change it the next time we get options to. But as to when we get to customize our character, it is unknown. So the main feature for ATV was talking about the weapon balancing. They want to ensure that all the weapons sit as intended within the game, so this is damage, power usage, durability, everything. They don't want any weapon to be over or underpowered. 3.0.1 patch brought us some balancing. The ship health also got reworked, so they need to ensure that the weapons match this as well so that you don't kill ships too quick. Health of the ship is determined by the size of the ship and the armour, which is dependent to how tough the ship is, so a military ship will be more tough, it'll have tougher armour. The way that they figure the armour is that it's a multiplier on the damage that the ship is taken. It's tidier than just giving armoured ships more health. It also allows them to swap out armours as they see fit. Now ships get separated into categories, we know civilian, racing, military, those sort of categories, and then given a base armour values and modified by the size of the ship. So for example, the M50 will have very thin armour as it needs to go fast and it's not really built for fighting. They do want armour to determine the missile locks, so having stealth properties built into the armour itself. So for example, if you take the Hornet Ghost, it'll be slightly weaker because the armour is also used for avoiding missiles, so it's less easy to get a lock on it. They do have more types of weapon damage coming later down the line. We currently have ballistic, distortion and energy. They did say there's going to be 4 to 5 new types. Whether that means including those or as well as those, I don't know. But anyway, that was ATV. Let's get on with RTV, where we delve further into the weapon balancing and combat as a whole. So following on from around the verse, Reverse the Verse looked deeper into the ship combat experience. We had John Crew and Andy Nicholson from the UK office answering questions from the community. The first question is, how do you decide the time to kill of a ship? Now they tried to get things on a small scale working first, so the damage, the rate of fire and so on, then they moved onto the armour items and the ship health. They tried to pitch one ship against another and get a rough timing for that, then try another ship and go on from there. All estimates are based off of the default loadouts for all ships. They do a lot of play testing with smaller ships. They need to spend a bit more time, they say, working with the larger ships, especially now that more systems are coming online too. There was a lot of changes in 3.0.1 in terms of balance and ship combat. The shield, health and regen rate changed, and it'll likely change a bit more in the future as well as they start adjusting other ships. So the next question is to do with the long-term plans for the game in terms of time to kill and combat. And the long-term plan is for component-driven behaviours for ships rather than the current artificial behaviours. They want damage to components to affect how your ship flies. They also want physically based damage, so Damage to the ships will be based on the parts, or the ship parts and materials. Projectiles will have mass plus velocity. This will determine how the damage is calculated. They also would like to introduce penetration soon as well. They say energy weapons have a low mass but eat away at your shields, whereas ballistics have high mass but low velocity. Shields are designed to slow down the mass, so if you use lasers or energy weapons against shields first to drain them away, then switch to ballistic ammo once the shields are out the way, you should be able to punch holes and do more damage. That'll be a good tactic. They are currently converting all the weapons to Item 2.0 to allow everything to work as one system. Most things at the moment are simulated rather than accurate through physics and calculations. They are heading towards simulated with Item 2.0. The time to kill currently is very linear. Disabling ships is not really an option. This system gives more choice to disable components. Ships will not just explode every time you fire at them. Parts may get disabled first and allow you to board, which is very exciting. They do have currently multiple physics grid working on ships, so if a ship breaks in half, you would still be able to walk around and use parts of the ship and isolate that area instead of just them blowing up into smithereens. Now, they did mention that they have beam weapons coming soon. There was a prototype shown to Chris Roberts. Him and others do really love it, so fingers crossed we'll get that sometime soon. Anyway, next question is, there are lots of different types of ships. What's the difference between a civilian and a military and so on? And they say it applies to ships and items. All items have about 8 statistical factors to them that determine their performance. So, for example, you have item grades A to D, you have military, civilian, so on and so forth. And this will determine the item's performance. Civilians obviously get more of a run-of-the-mill components, giving general output and performance, whereas, let's say, industrial have massive outputs, but with massive emissions as well, making them lit up like Christmas trees. Performance ships or components have, again, great output, like a lot of performance to them, but their durability is much lower, and again, they give out a lot of emissions, so there's a lot of balancing there. Next question is to do with armor types. The Ghost has the stealth armor type, making missiles hard to lock. How will this be visualized to the player so that you know you're attacking someone who has some good armor? And they say scanning will have multiple stages. An initial scan will reveal the ship or the type of ship. If you then keep scanning the ship, it will reveal more and more information until you potentially learn that it's got that type of armor. Also, signature readouts will help you notice too, because if it's got stealth armor, your signature readouts will show you that they are very difficult to pick up. They used to have a numerical readout on the UI, which they said is coming back, and I'm sure over time it'll just be adjusted as they see fit as new components come in. So, next question is to do with shield types. Have they considered having shields that protect against ballistic damage over energy damage, and vice versa? So they say they have been discussing that this week. They expect to go in a direction to offer various shield types for better protection in various ways against various damage types. So yes, expect to see later down the line different types of shields to help against particular damage types. So second to last question is just turrets, basically what's happening with them. They say that the pitch and the yaw does feel different, but they want people to have their own preference on what values they want these axes to be. And I like the sound of this, so if you allowing us to adjust it as we deem fit would be perfect. Hopefully they'll do this in the game rather than dragging you out into the menu. It'll be nice to be able to have a feature where you can adjust the turret axis speeds within the game just using the console maybe. So the final question is, can players adjust the weapon rate of fire and velocity, allowing us to zero all weapons to use and align the same pips? Now, they did say that this would solve a lot of problems. It's a good idea. They need time to test these sort of things. They often have lots of good ideas that could solve issues, but it's just about getting the time to put them to the test. They are considering changing some of the default ship loadouts, so that will adjust the pips. Maybe that's when they'll address it. But that sounds like a great idea, allowing you to speed up and slow down the rate of fire and so forth. Nice thinking. Anyway, that was Reverse the Verse, guys. Let's move on. So, on Calling All Devs, the first question was, in terms of the ship interior customization, when will we get it? So decorating the inside of your ship. Now, they said they've not made any progress on this yet. They want to deliver some fun options for us, but it's not priority at the moment. Obviously, they are trying to get the ships out first and foremost. But things like dashboard decorations, like bobbleheads, for example, they need to explore in terms of physics, how they do it. Is it going to react to the movement of your ship? Is it just going to be a generalized movement? I would love to know what you guys would like to see on interiors, so let me know down below in the comments. The next question is in terms of an API to display data from your Mobiglass or your inventory to the websites. Now, they definitely have plans for an API. It's not likely going to be your Mobiglass information, but it will be inventory data, so like what ships you have, the items you have, the cargo you're carrying maybe. They've not worked on it yet, as the data is constantly changing at the moment with it being in development. They are looking into ways to integrate Spectrum into the game. Once it's closer to a final sort of content for the game, they will then look into it, as it will make more sense. So the third question, Redeemer. Where is it? What is happening with it? Can you tell us more? And he did say that it's not a priority this year. They don't need it for the PU, so it's not going to be 2018, I'm afraid. There are currently lots of design problems with it, like the turret is a bit weird. There's tight spaces and twisty corners. It's not to the current metric of ship, so they need to readdress it completely. They're also trying to decide whether to make it solely a dropship or solely a gunship. They've got lots of dropships, so they say it's more likely going to be a gunship. They don't currently have anything along the lines of an AC-130 gunship. Now, at first I was a bit, I'm not really too sure if they should switch them to one or the other. But hearing about the AC-130 style type of ship is kind of fun, and I think that would be very cool. Obviously, this isn't 100% decided yet. A conversation needs to be had first in terms of what they do want. So, final question. What's happening with Tessa Bannister? Now, if you don't know, Tessa Bannister was a kind of a character that you never actually saw. She was one of the ladies in, or a voice, should I say, in a space station that would just give you missions in 2.6. Now, they want to give her more of a stronger role. So she will be coming back to 3.0. They did record more of a voice for 3.0, but they just didn't get time to implement her. They're hoping to get her more of as a solid mission giver. They want her to control missions requiring scanning. So when scanning is in, I'm sure we'll see Tessa make a new appearance. What would be cool if we could go and visit her on the actual space station rather than just her voice. But anyway, I doubt that will happen. So that was Calling All Devs. Some good questions there. Unfortunately, they couldn't really give us too much information about things like the Redeemer or the ship interior customizing. That would be very cool. But we did get a little bit more cleared up on the Redeemer. Anyway, let me know your thoughts, guys. Let's move on. Also this week, Lawmaker's Guide returned showing off the Kellogg system. And February's 2948 Subflare is an Outpost Worker figurine. So I just want to give a big shout out to all my patrons. Your support is very much appreciated and I cannot thank you all enough. Patrons help me cover costs like the software that I use to make the videos, and help towards hardware needed to keep up the ever-evolving tech needed to run Star Citizen. If you like what I do and want to help me more directly, please follow the link to my Patreon page to learn more. It is very much appreciated. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you so much for watching. A big thank you to the subscribers and the patrons as you make this possible. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow me on Twitch, Twitter and Instagram, and I shall see you next time.